Здравствуйте, коллеги, рад вас приветствовать. Представитель информационного агентства России ТАСС. Футбольный чемпионат мира закончился, но на самом деле, конечно, итоги еще будем подводить. И, конечно, очень интересно, что же за этот месяц было, помимо эмоций,
plus to the Russian economy and the experience we have gained, which is on the heritage of the championship. Now we're going to discuss the transportation system and speak about for the whole month and probably even more than a month. Very accurately, like a clockwork, the transportation system of the World Cup was working, and foreign fans and the guests of our country expressed gratitude and appreciation of that system. This is situationally presented to us, and certain analysis of the situation by the General Director of the Transportation Agency, Kirill Polikov. The floor is yours, Yolda. And Head of Department for the Transportation of the Railroad, Mr. Burtsov, is also here on our panel. He is welcome you. And as long as we are used to a great number of fans and lots of video materials, so let's begin from the, not from the numbers, but from the video.
Два миллиона болельщиков, 32 команды-участницы, 11 городов-организаторов, сотни километров дорог и одна общая цель. Весь транспортный комплекс был задействован в организации комфортного передвижения гостей чемпионата мира по футболу. Россия первая в мире предоставила возможность бесплатного проезда болельщикам и аккредитованным FIFA представителям СМИ на дополнительных поездах между городами-организаторами и непосредственно в городах по маршрутам спортивных соревнований. Специально к чемпионату мира по футболу в России была создана транспортная дирекция 2018, целью которой стала координация предоставления бесплатного проезда между городами проведения матчей. Весь бесплатный транспорт отличала специальная символика фрирайд. Быстро и безопасно на матчи гостей чемпионата доставляли комфортабельные поезда. Для передвижения между городами-организаторами необходимо было иметь фан-ID, билет на матч и пройти простую процедуру бронирования на сайте или в колл-центре. В дни проведения чемпионата в кассах вокзалов. Круглосуточно сотрудники транспортной дирекции решали вопросы по координации передвижения болельщиков и оперативно реагировали на поступающие запросы.
Россия – огромная страна, и расстояние между городами тоже очень большое. Поэтому очень хорошо, что здесь есть бесплатный транспорт для болельщиков. Это упрощает все передвижения, вызывает желание посещать Россию снова и снова.
Ориентироваться в многообразии бесплатного транспорта 11 городов-организаторов и между ними гостям чемпионата помогал транспортный гид болельщика, с помощью которого можно было оформить билеты на дополнительные поезда, найти важные объекты во всех городах и построить оптимальные маршруты. За время проведения чемпионата на 734 дополнительных поезда было оформлено 400 тысяч билетов пассажирами из 175 стран мира.
По тем отзывам, которые мы слышали от болельщиков иностранных и от представителей СМИ, аккредитованных FIFA, по итогу чемпионата мира очень позитивно отреагировали во всем мире на такую возможность, которую предоставила Россия в период чемпионата.
Все автобусы с организованными группами болельщиков для въезда в города-организаторы оснащались аппаратурой спутниковой навигации, что помогало водителю и пассажирам оповещать спецслужбы в случае необходимости оказания экстренной помощи. Весь транспорт был адаптирован для удобного и безопасного передвижения маломобильных групп пассажиров. Пандусы, низкопольный подвижной состав с фиксаторами в салонах, кнопки вызова экстренной помощи и многое другое. Все это помогло каждому гостю получить удовольствие от пребывания на чемпионате.
На самом деле, мало кто верил, что возможно передвигаться маломобильным гражданам между городами проведения чемпионата мира по футболу. Однако это оказалось не только возможным, но и комфортным. Благодаря системе FreeRide сопровождающий, который был со мной, смог проехать тоже бесплатно.
Пройден огромный путь от подготовки до победы. Победы над обстоятельствами и амбициозными задачами. Мы сделали это вместе.
Ну вот, действительно.
Now, as you have seen, what we have accomplished throughout the month, we have great experience, and when foreign masses of fans discussed with us, we discussed various issues, and we believe that there would be great distances for the cup, and they were saying that FIFA was supposed to, this transportation system that we had in Russia, it has to be sort of analyzed and probably adopted in other places, and now you will speak about that in your presentation with the other countries that are going to prepare for the championships. The other countries that will hold their special will have to catch up with us. And with pleasure we will share our experience that Russia has gained during the preparation and conduct of the championship. And we have completed this big soccer festival, and with the high quality, with flying colors, and the appreciation of the President of the Russian Federation also gave a high value and free ride system between the organizers and not only for the fans, also for the accredited mass media representatives. It was appreciated by all the guests, and we largely received a lot of positive feedback from, and we are still receiving them. We are going to conduct among our passengers a questionnaire, what they liked and what they didn't like, and if any other country wants to apply the system, then accordingly, as the inheritance of this championship, the legacy, we want to share our experience, not also for the World Championship, but also for Confederations Cup. It was very important for us too. The Confederations Cup was very important as a preparatory stage. Of course, the scope and scale was different, was smaller, but we received a lot of feedback, a lot of proposals, which made it possible to make the travel during the championship most comfortable in 2018 during the World Cup. And talking about the main numbers, first of all, engaged in the railroads, we'll speak about them later. We also had the aircraft. We had 13 airports and 16 million passengers have been hauled, and during the championship, and about 100,000 routes between the organized cities were carried out, and we issued permissions to foreign transport organizations, not only from their countries, to the organized cities. It was for 1,600 applications that we received, and we also issued many also permissions for in-country travel that were carrying passengers, carrying fans between the host cities during the period. We also organized 600 additional flights, and there were big fuselage planes were used because they could accommodate more passengers, and otherwise the transportation was provided in full, and we didn't have any complaints as regards free ride. 774 trains were involved, and we issued a great number of travel coupons, and we had fans from 118 countries, 181 countries, and most of them were for citizens, and the top 5 countries were coming from Argentina, from Colombia, Mexico, the US, and China. In addition to that, we had special routes, that is in-town routes, which was public transportation. The main attraction ports were the fan zones and the stadiums and the airports, and also computer trains were also used for engaging for train ride. And so in 11 cities, most of the travel was taking place in Moscow, as you would have appreciate, and Moscow metro remained the most popular means of transportation because we had two stadiums in Moscow and most of the matches were taking place in Russia. And the director also developed various information resources with a three-ride system and the support system that was Brighton 24/7. It's a resource which was interim staff, which made it possible not only to accept mutation and test the candidates at the train stations and organized cities, and also all the accountability was going through that software, and also the fan guide, which was very popular among the fans, where you could study all the routes, all the venues, and there was a special information resource in order to provide safety to the bus haulage between the organizer cities and its bus transport, which made it possible for us to make applications and to provide safety of all those who travel by bus, which were organized for them. And the main resources for the free ride turned out to be the site ticket transport to 118, which was considerably corrected following the Confederations Cup, and we added a possibility for children below 5 years, and the journalists, also organized waiting lists, and the applications to travel to Kaliningrad, and the possibility of making reservations at and to interim stops. And the colleague will speak about that in greater detail. Over 90% of all the tickets were organized through that site, and the hotline and the transportation directorate was working in 5 languages. It was 4 official languages, FIFA languages and Russian language. In addition to that, the hotline began its work beginning from the 15th of October into 9 months. We have processed over 136,000 calls and 45,000 applications that came to the email, and there were 65,000 outgoing calls were made in order to confirm reservations when we saw that not the fans, all the fans that made reservations for a free ride, and they decided to use some other means of transportation, they would come back to their personal office and cancelled their travel. We received the questions around the clock, but the big month certainly was June, and 40,000 calls were received and 12,000 letters received during that month, and most of the questions were coming from the Russian-speaking passengers. It's about 80%, and all the 4 languages were evolved. And sometimes people called who didn't speak any of the 4 languages, official 4 languages, so we had to find people who were able to speak to them and to understand what they really wanted. And the most popular question was to clarify the rights of free travel between the organized cities, and change the reservation for the tickets, and various data clarifications. And our service was working for making low mobility passengers and their escorts. About 1,100 people used this kind of travel using special compartments which were organized for low mobility citizens, and also our employees were working at all the train stations, and all of them had special uniforms. It were easy to identify, and there were a lot of applications made right at the train stations to various employees, to our staff, and from the Federal Railroad Service. We had about 40 to 80 persons at the train station that were working by shifts around the clock, and they not only provided assistance, but also they assisted for the regular trains that were monitored by our trains. We recruited the personnel beginning from the 26th of February, and most of the personnel was in Moscow and Sochi. We had quite a high competition for one place, and all of them have done a special course of training, and they studied national peculiarities of various cultures, taboos, stereotypes and prejudices and superstitions, and how we get to treat residents of different countries like Argentina, Morocco, China, Iran, Qatar, and so on. All of them had their own peculiarities, and we provided special literature, special books, and special information for them, which also be like a heritage for us in order to conduct similar events in Russia. Special attention was attached to interaction with major groups of people, especially aggressive groups of people. Now that the championship is over, we can say that this training produced its positive results, and they managed to sort out various problems. For example, the 29th of June, 430 Argentine balloons tried to go from Moscow to Kazan to Argentina, France without preliminary reservation, because they were not careful in reading their rules and regulations, and they were trying to get into the train just producing their fun ideas. So the employees in this situation managed to overcome the stress, and they provide assistance to all the passengers. We also deployed activities in order to assist them, and 330 fans were traveling in our free trains, and together with the Federal Passenger Company, we want to express special gratitude to the railroad authorities and all the services that were engaged during the World Cup, and they managed to organize an additional train, and they added to the schedule, and otherwise everybody who wanted to go to Kazan and to take part in that soccer festival, they managed it. And the Kazan train station in Moscow became the most popular in terms of the number of applications. About 10,000 applications were processed by the employees in Kazan train station. In all the other consultations were provided, about 55,000 passengers received consultations for free ride. I would say that free ride was provided between the cities and inside the cities, and special transportation guide was also developed as a mobile application, and about 50,000 fans downloaded that application. It was a very good aid for them for providing the comfortable transportation between the organizer cities and inside the cities. And another important the bus transportation is also very important, and they had the bus drivers had to provide to submit their application for travel, and the procedures for travel and for entry were all provided. You saw them at the site and at the slides, and as of today we managed to, using that resource, we managed to to minimize any emergency situations at the buses between the organizer cities, and provide safety to all the safety and security in between the cities, travel and intercity travel and internal travel. Kaliningrad and back was the most difficult for them. About 15,000 fans were traveling. About 70 representatives of mass media managed to go to Kaliningrad and back, and 33 trains were solely allocated for that purpose, and low mobility passengers, we had about 40 low mobility passengers as well. The most important thing was that they were transiting through Belarus and the Lithuanian Republic, and owing to the agreement between the governments of Belarus, foreign fans had the right to travel the country, to transit in the country by displaying their ID and about 93 representatives of various countries managed to travel to Kaliningrad and back using the trains, but with all the implications, so the fans really experienced some difficulties. When the first 4 trains to Kaliningrad, about 70 passengers didn't have all the necessary documents documents for transit travel through Lithuanian Republic, and although we provided mass information of passengers and mass information, that the regulations of this organized city have certain peculiarities. However, in spite of that, there were some passengers who came without all the requisite documents, and all the Russians were supposed to have foreign passports, and somebody said that, why don't you take me straight? I don't want to go through Lithuania. It was quite a bit of surprise, but anyway, he came back and he brought his foreign passport, and he was able to travel afterwards, and otherwise the decision was made to provide transit documents to Russian citizens, and several tickets for them were sort of organized anew, and about 100 Nigerian fans helped assistance for the match between Nigeria and Croatia, and because they didn't have any tickets, neither for the train, and they didn't have any Schengen visas, so it was impossible to organize their travel on the railroad transport, so we had to organize additional seats for them for air travel, and all of them were hauled. A similar situation we had with Morocco fans who wanted to travel to Kaliningrad from Moscow, and also with Russian air companies, to which we have a lot of gratitude for. All of them had a chance to get to Kaliningrad on a fixed to Kaliningrad city on a fixed rate. At first, the free ride we took very advantageous decisions that enabled many more passengers to use this free ride opportunity. Using the hotline, the waiting list was also organized, and all those who wanted to have this ride could apply, and the information of this waiting list and the cancelled tickets. So we provided tickets to the fans, the waiting list from the tickets that had been cancelled. And on the daily basis, from the call center, we had to call the passengers in order to make a confirmation that they travel. It was especially important for the trains. They didn't have any vacant seats, and they had about 35,000. We also found a ticket for our Carlos Pascual Tula and his escort. He came to St. Petersburg to attend the match with Nigeria, and the next match was to take place in Kazan, but he didn't have enough places. He applied to the support, and we managed to organize a ticket for him, and beginning from 75, he never missed a single match of his national team, and we helped him preserve this tradition. He got to this match along with his escort. We had very many instances when I found some lost documents and helped the people to find their trains. Many of them had problems with the names of the train stations. Anyway, the directorate personnel, and they managed to provide assistance to them, and the number of late passengers was minimal. At the train stations, we held them at formalized tickets. Train station, about 17,000 tickets were sort of processed in the period during the championship, just prior to the train departure. In the first week, we found passengers who had several reservations, but they did not report to the train. Therefore, we made a decision that after we have a personal information to cancel all the subsequent reservations. We had an Italian fan who had 56 free ride reservations, but after he 5 times didn't use his reservations, we informed him that his other reservations will be cancelled. But actually, he had to acknowledge that he only wanted to make two travels instead of 56, and So altogether, 1,820 tickets were cancelled altogether, and they were based on their basis. Seats were provided to passengers for the waiting lists, and I want to thank all the colleagues who were providing comfortable and safe travel for the fans between the cities, from Russian railroads, from Russian aviation, and our representatives in the regions who also responded reacted to all the problems that arose, and by our joint efforts we managed to organize haulage between the cities and inside the cities, comfortable, safe, and qualitative, and we heard a lot of positive feedback. But I want to thank all of you. I want to give the floor, and I want to give the floor to you now. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. And indeed, the Russian railroads was taking active part in transport support, and the main numbers have already been voiced. And for us, the college was an important, a serious test of our maturity, our ability to provide the services that we can provide with the best possible quality, and to draw conclusions for the future in terms of our future development and improvement of our operations. We carried out haulage not only inside those free ride, the whole transportation system was engaged, and additionally we analyzed the routes where free ride travel were organized. We also had ordinary trains, that is daily trains. We also carried additionally 5,211,000 passengers on those trains. They were not only traveling, that is our usual, our customers, but also fans were traveling on those trains, and the commuter trains were very actively involved. And we took the special decisions about free travel of fans on the fan ID and commuter trains, and it enabled us to actually 911 individuals, so we could count all of them that used the service of the commuter trains, and of 12 commuter trains that were taking part in the haulage and the regional travel. And on the whole, if you speak about whether there was a growth of passenger flows, of course, in June, which was the most massive haulage period, compared to the previous year, the growth was about 10% altogether. Otherwise, it was 10% higher that we had the passenger haulage numbers. Throughout the year, in the first half year, we have a positive dynamics, and it's about 6% growth compared to the same period the previous year, but plus 10% in June. It means that people during the championship were more actively using the trains, and we could see that by the demand for tickets. And as has already been said, that we responded very quickly to, as Kirill Polikovich said, we responded very quickly to the problems that arose with the passengers, and we also responded to the problems that occurred with the insufficient number of tickets and inability to buy tickets. And there were no cases when it was impossible to buy a ticket. And throughout June, about 150 additional trains were sort of assigned in order not to create any problems for haulage and to avoid the deficit of tickets. And we also carried out a big job for the infrastructure, which was taking part in servicing the fans and the 31 train stations that were engaged. They were restored actually prior to the World Cup, and 17 platforms that were newly built for this occasion, and a great deal of work was done in order to sort of improve the improvements and to improve the infrastructure. Otherwise, I want to say that the job that we began to do long before the World Cup. We began to get ready for it beginning 2013. That is right after the decision was made that this World Cup would be taking place in Russia, and we have carried out a great job. And this legacy that is staying with us, it will serve us for a long time. In addition to repaired or refurbished train stations, we also managed to apply new technologies in terms of servicing passengers, that is information systems that we installed in the train stations, and also those systems that made it possible to regulate the flows of people. That is the elements of the smart train station that we have been speaking for a long time. You can come to our train station, you can see that very many elements of the smart train station facilities have already been there based on the experience that we have gained. And I can speak specifically that during the World Cup we had the problems that otherwise we didn't anticipate. There was a question like cloakrooms, and historically they were there. We believe that they were ready and they were available and prepared. We replaced the equipment for the automatic cloakrooms, but during the holiday itself, we had to increase the number of places by 133% in all the train stations that served the needs of the fans. It was two-time increase, because all the people who came to attend the matches, they were not going anywhere. They went to our cloakrooms and they living there, everything they had with them, so that they would collect them the way back. So prior to boarding the train, so all those kind of things, we had lots of them, and naturally we recorded all of them, took note of all of them, and we understand that such massive events, that we will also pay more attention to such, and the experience that we have gained will help us organize similar events even better, that will be trusted to our country to conduct, to carry out. And with the Russian events of that level, we will be taking part in them willingly. I would also dwell on the issue of that our personnel was taking active part, especially the personnel that had to service the passengers, which helped them acquire new competencies, and the conductors in the trains that were taking part in free travel, and there was a competition for whether there were people who wanted to study the English language. And I'd like to say that during this preparation for the World Cup, about 450 conductors, they expressed a willingness to study English language, and they undertook a course of English language, and they were taking part alongside with volunteers and servicing the passengers. And they were also posing as interpreters at our trains, which made it possible for us to service the people at a dual level, and there were no complaints with linguistic complaints on the part of the passengers, and it applies to all the spheres, and the interaction with the volunteers, with the volunteer movement as a whole. It proved once again to us that all our interaction with the volunteers, like the economic forum at St. Petersburg, which is a major event in the regions, it could show that we have a systemic coordination with them, and their engagement in the travel based on the demand, higher demand. I believe it was a very, very, very positive aspect. Kirill Polikov has noted that organization of our joint college to Kaliningrad was quite a difficult challenge, and it was not simple. The measures that we were taken and the orders that were issued by the Ministry of Transportation, they helped us minimize the negative aspects associated with the passengers. Throughout the whole period, 32 trains went to Kaliningrad back, and only 14 fans had to be taken out of the train, and all the other fans, except the 14, owing to the measures that had been taken, all the measures were taken either prior to their boarding trains, or we left them and we provided all the transit visas for them so that they could travel through the European Union territory, and otherwise we resolved all the issues of this kind. And we also had a problem of time difference in Kaliningrad and Moscow. You know, there's 1 hour difference, minus 1 hour, so it's many fans that hour dedicated to traveling inside the city, touring the city, and sightseeing. And they were massively late for the trains, and we also had to respond to them with the Transportation Directorate because they didn't take into account the tower. And we had about dozens of buses that we additionally put them on the buses. We brought them to Chernyshevsk, where they could cross the border to Lithuania. And we managed to bring the people on the train because the train stays in Chernyshevsk, which is the border station, for about an hour. So this such coordinated efforts made it possible for us, enabled us to organize all the colleges quite positively, and I believe that our company will in the future be engaged, and we're ready to provide such services. And the feedback that we are receiving mostly positive feedback, and this championship, beginning from the massive, we didn't have any massive complaints for the transportation safety at the train stations, and for about, at first there were quite a lot of calls from the people who were sort of, because the transport infrastructure, we had reinforced security measures, and so the people could not really understand why and so on. But within 2 weeks, the complaints were going down, and in 2 weeks we're not receiving any complaints about this intensified security system. And later on, we were only receiving the gratitude for that, thanks for that. And information lines were also quite active, and you're aware that we had we had a special telephone number for the hotline. We not only had the English language servicing, but we also managed to provide Spanish-speaking and Chinese-speaking operators. And today, when the championship is over, we are continuing to work in that direction. In the same mode, we still have those linguists. It will be on a permanent basis because the interest is quite realistic, and the calls are still coming from various foreign citizens in order to obtain all sorts of information. So we are going to work in this area, and I hope that all the results will be perceived positively, and the experience that we have gained will help us improve the servicing of our population and bring it to a higher level. Thank you very much. No, thank you. As a compliment to you, I'd like to say that this is the highest professionalism when you manage to overcome the laziness of people and the disorganization of people, what exactly you have said today, what you've been speaking about. I have a question to you, Pavel, with your numbers. You're better familiar with your numbers, and you know how this increments, how they are distributed throughout the year. You said you had a 10% increase of passenger haulage. Actually, 10 in June only, but otherwise. But what is your prediction? That is, President Vladimir Putin said that he wants to extend this fan ID travel until the end of the year. Do you have any prediction, any forecast that is is how many tourists, additional tourists we're going to receive, and what will be the increase in ticket sales. In terms of tickets, at the beginning of this year, our task was to increase the haulage by 2%, and now we are now plus 6% instead of 2%, and by the end of the year, we believe that we'll preserve this positive dynamics of 6%, and it's not only because the FNAD will be preserved or extended, but because of the accurate and correct marketing policy pursued by us of the Federal Transportation Company in terms of ticket price and directions and timely response to additional trains allocations and also express trains, which we also had to offer a dynamic of 25% compared to the previous year. It's a new product for us, which so man from he can switch from night travel to day travel, and when it's only a 7-hour travel, it's and sometimes the time is shortened, and it's 25% increase, and it's in high demand, and people like it, and it says it goes so that the cities people travel to, they have the hotels where they can have a good rest, which you didn't have before, and people used our train as a hostel, so to say. We see the changes, the positive changes, and we see the changes in the development of the infrastructure, and we try to respond to such changes. Colleagues, do you have any questions, please? Please come to the microphone and ask your question.
Нет, извините, пожалуйста, там уже Вы подойдите, пожалуйста, к микрофону.
Please come closer to the microphone.
Да. Нет, просто у нас идет трансляция.
Thing is that we have this conference. Could you tell us, please? You said that the new president, that fans will still be traveling with the same fans, and so will they also enjoy free travel, or are you going to carry them for money? And if it is free travel, who is going to food? Now, all the free travel for the World Cup, it was funded by the federal budget. We had a special agreement with the Transportation Directorate for this transportation servicing. So the company, Russian railroads, had received all the payment today. We say that the FNAD free travel, we don't have such information. Nobody has asked us about it to extend this free travel for FNAD owners, and kind of decisions will be made. If such decisions are made, we'll try to fulfill them. So that will need a lot of money. For citizens, they're willing to use the paid services. I would say the level of prices and the level of service was satisfactory for them. That is, and in many situations it was quite normal in terms of quality versus price, and whatever did not correspond to the price that we offered. We didn't have any cases when they were not satisfied with their price. And I had that question. Now this hot period is over, of travel is over for the World Cup, and what are you going to do now? Any serious problems that you have, like haulage of the same quality and the same number of people? And I've been working on this issue of the railroads. I do not quite understand your role here. Thank you for your question. Let me tell you that in continuing to what Pavel Vasilievich had to say, free travel was only provided for the period of the World Cup, and that's it. And in the future, the fans who will have an opportunity to come to Russia on their FNAD without a visa, it was like regular tourists who travel between cities, and not only the cities, between Russian cities, not necessarily the World Cup host cities, and they can travel at their own expense and they can use the infrastructure. The development that infrastructure had received during the World Championship period as the Transportation Directorate is only set up for the World Cup, and it was responsible for free travel. And in the future, this organization will be dissolved, and if any additional decisions could be made in that regard about the organization of any mass events, then the team that has already been sort of assembled, it could be used once again, not to organize similar big-scale events in the territory of the Russian Federation. And a great number of employees of our directorate has acquired experience at the Sochi Olympic Games and the Sochi directorate that was set up during the Sochi Winter Olympics that came to the GM, so to the World Cup directorate. And if any additional decisions could be taken, then a special structure would be set up, and it will be responsible for all such haulage, and our work will be continued. Your question, please? Frauloda RIA Novosti. My question is about the Qatar, which is going to host the World Cup in 2022. Did any transportation directorate from Qatar came to speak to you? Because they also want to use the experience of free ride that you used, and probably some of the directorate that will go to Qatar in order to help your colleagues to sort of to organize this free ride system. I have a very good attitude toward the employees that worked with me during the World Cup. So this is this wish. We did have a brief communication in St. Petersburg during the Petersburg Economic Forum, and the Qatar representatives were very closely following the work that we were carrying out during the championships, and the Qatar representatives were studying our sort of experience during the World Cup, and not only transportation. They are in close contact with the organizing committee and the FIFA representatives that will have to organize all those events, and we have several meetings with them, and they made an application in order to have such meetings so that we could summarize the results. And I believe that beginning from the next week we are going to carry out such meetings, and we will share with them our experience, how we organize this and that, and then it will be their own decision how they will organize it and the resources they want to apply. The meetings will be in Moscow. All of them are in Moscow now, and they are kind of receiving the legacy of the World Cup, and many representatives are in Moscow. Good old paper, Kirill Valentinovich said that the 56,000 times the fan guide was downloaded, and in which languages it was most popular. And most of the downloads was in Russian language. We have to say, but the other languages were also used. There were 5. All of them were also in demand. From the point of view of options, we did not actually calculate, so nobody would accuse us of that we were circulating or collecting any private information. We didn't have the right to do it, and we didn't do it. So there was no tracking the passengers and what kind of routes they requested and which cities they wanted to get to. We did not follow that. We only recorded the number of users who downloaded such applications and who were using that application in order to provide its adequate operability and safety, security. And I can say with confidence that our system was working without any aborts and without any glitches, and full security was provided. There were attempts, we have to say, that there were hackers with a plain hand, so to say, that were trying to see how safe our information systems were. But with honor, we can say that our specialists our system without any glitches throughout the championship, and such attempts were thwarted. In following up on that question, did you have any hacker attacks on the railroad system? As far as I understand, the system is constantly under attacks, hacker attacks, and to try it for, we didn't have a single case when our system was violated. Boris Gubkin from in service. Mr. Polikov, do you have any cases, any incidents with railroad and aircraft carriers during the championships among or between the fans? Let me tell you what, during the championships, the whole country was in the system of optimal or maximum tolerance, and so any incorrect behavior with respect to the other passengers were isolated, and the other passengers did not even notice that. That's how I can answer to you with a bit of deviation. Can we extend the system of maximum tolerance for the rest of the time? Well, I have to understand that you all have to be able to strike the golden medium. It's not only the railroad, but also the regular trains, not only the free ride trains. We also applied increased safety measures and security measures, and if a person drank more than he was supposed to, and tried to behave overly outlandishly, and so we managed to have a discussion with him and to put him to bed, and we had some other very precise procedures how to act in the situation. And the next day, this person, after he had slept in a special place, could continue his travel to the venue. But the cases that are known to us, and we have some information, it's only, mostly it's various abuses, like alcoholic abuses, but there were no other cases, incidents between the fans, or otherwise didn't register any kind of conflicts between the fans. That's what I'm asking you. It's a question to Mr. Burtsev. Did you sale of alcoholic beverages in the trains during the championship? Basically, there was information that there were requests to ban alcoholic beverages. Now we worked in the framework of Russian legislation, and we didn't introduce any additional measures. No additional measures, except that hard liquor was forbidden. But you could have beer and wine, but you could only have them in the dining cars. I have a question to you. Free haulage. 75 trains were engaged, but these cars, these coaches, will they be attached to some other trains? Yes, the whole pool of trains has increased, as you would also appreciate, and all those coaches will go to the permanent routes, mostly the southern direction that is being reinforced, because it's a peak of haulage, because very many travelers going down south, and also the rolling stock that will be working in the most profitable directions, where additional trains will be formed, and a number of high-quality trains would also be increased. And the usage of such coaches has been planned for many years ahead. Can we also ask you the exact number? But it's 1,175 high-quality coaches. It's 75 trains altogether, but 1,175 coaches we are talking about. And as a passenger company, we're coming to the mode of aggressive policy with respect to the renovation or refurbishment of the rolling stock, and a request to the Tver, that is this railroad building, cars, and we are going to renovate our pool. And the volume of haulage from the start said that the volume of the planes was 44,000 people, but the they said that 100,000 tickets. But these are the numbers of the reservations that were made but were not used. We didn't apply any penalties on those people. I said that very many thousands of people also booked their passage right at the train stations, and you placed them to the vacant seats, and they were on the waiting lists, and we gave them a chance. So 320,000 people were carried, but we had about 440,000 bookings, but reservations. But many people had to change their plans, and some people decided to use air travel instead of train travel to pay an adequate price for the plane ticket. So this certain place was reserved, but it was not used by the person. When foreign representatives and fans came here, when the playoff only began, all those problems started because everything was reserved. But the routes of the teams also had to change, and there were fans, first of all, from Latin American countries, who were hopeful that their team would come to the final of the championship or semi-final, whatever, but they believed that their team would go, but they had to go back to their country, and they forgot to press the cancel button, to click the cancel button, so that in Russia they tried not to use the telephones in order not to pay for the roaming. There were some other barriers they tried to overcome. All the people who came to the train stations and wished to use the service of in the organizer cities, they did have this opportunity. We didn't have a situation that somebody was left behind, except for Kaliningrad. Some of the people who didn't have about 70 people altogether. Can I ask you, Maria Bonka, Radio Strana? You said that all the planes had the GLONASS system. They could make an emergency call, and so why was it? Mainly, it was the problem with the quality of the buses, because sometimes they had to press the make an emergency call through the GLONASS system when the engine broke down, for example. But otherwise, we didn't have any serious violations. You understand how many buses were traveling between the cities, and we met them at the city limits, and we showed them where the parking places were organized, and how they could get to the fan zones, to the stadiums. Otherwise, we didn't have any serious incidents with the buses. We had small road accidents, but nothing serious, as you could see. Our networks, social networks, are very well developed, and if something happens, you will find out about it immediately. I also would like to say that it is because the system was set up, everybody had to understand that in case something occurs like that, the reaction speed is very quick, and if somebody was planning something, like soccer hooligans, and they had some threatening messages in the social networks, but anyway, it was all such messages were tracked and called, and using all sorts of systems, and all such incidents were sort of precluded. I cannot speak about all of them because I'm not aware of all of them, but anyway, we didn't have any serious incidents. Thank you. One more question. I was working for the water company, and a great number of positive feedbacks and gratitudes were applied to the direction of transportation. And I want to thank you once again for your high performance, great performance. And my question is, what will be left behind to us, except for the refurbished train stations and new platforms? What an ordinary person who lives in Moscow will receive after this World Cup is over. Let me do it what? First of all, I want to thank you for the words of gratitude that you have expressed, and it's very pleasant when you have so high appreciation from an independent expert, from independent source, and for the great job that we have been doing, not only the Transportation Directorate, but all the organizers that were engaged, because we were coordinators, but most of the people who were engaged in the structures in the Russian railroads and in all the units, all the divisions, some of them did not stay in the train stations and the trains themselves, but beginning from the switch operator, who is always to blame, but the switch operators worked very, very, very correctly, and all the trains went in the right directions, as you would also appreciate, and all the way to the high management of the Russian railroads. I was one of them. I visited most of the train stations, all of the train stations, and there was extreme attention, great attention was given to the trains coming and going, and especially such cities as Kaliningrad and Samara and Kaliningrad. There were always people at the train stations who were capable of making timely decisions and effective decisions, and also a great job was made and was done on air haulage and talking about the legacy. If you take what you take for the future out of that experience, what you will adopt for the future, so to say. Everything that you're saying is, well, it's not the last event, I'm sure, of this magnitude, and in Russia. The next championship will be conducted even better than this one. I'm absolutely sure about that. It's if any of the countries will not manage, then Russia is fully prepared for it, and Russia can always be hosting a great number of foreign fans and who enjoyed it in Russia very much, by the way. And talking about the legacy, in addition to what Pavel Vasilyevich had to say about the train stations, that not only have been completely refurbished, but also adapted to working with low mobility citizens, which everybody noted, in addition to the inspection points, and so that to minimize the instances of any attempts of unlawful deeds at the train stations and misbehavior. We have a lot of new transportation facilities that will still stay with those roads and the airports. We have new terminals in Rostov-on-the-Don. It was built from a shoelace, so to say, in the open field, and beginning from the terminal itself and the landing strips and whatever, and it even provides the possibility of blind landing. So safety and security of railroad haulage and air haulage and the quality of the haulage during the championship, during the World Cup, increased radically, and it will be left with us as a great potential for the quality of life in the cities. And we also have new road junctions organized, and the state of quality roads, that was the project was announced by the president. So this transportation system improved in many cities, and all this experience and all this legacy will stay with the citizens who live in those cities and during the championship, they probably they experienced certain inconveniences, but we tried to minimize the inconveniences for the people, for the residents of those cities. In view of all the security measures and additional measures. For Saransk, for example, 40,000 fans, it was quite a lot of people, and it was not notable for Russia, but who would know that Nikolskaya Street became the most popular street for the fans in Moscow? But it so happened because we didn't anticipate it that way, but the fans took all the necessary steps, and the fans they enjoy Nikolskaya Street, and many of them have this "I love Nikolskaya" sort of. On behalf of the Russian Railroad Company, you also say something. I believe that first of all, the competence of the staff is very important, because such events they cause people to look differently at their duties and how they work with their customers, and because the people who come, they have different mentalities and different requirements, and it's a very serious challenge for them. I also like to draw attention to the technologies that we managed to test during those events. It's the navigation systems that we have, and the transportation security that also is very important. We tie it with the servicing systems, not in the academic sense that precludes human being as a consumer of the service, but from the point of view of the developers of the system, transportation security, we consider them as with the focus on improvement of passenger servicing. It became the important element of technologies, and it would not influence on the quality and would not cause any alienation on the part of the customers. We'll be working on that, and all the people participating in that issue will see for themselves how important it is, and it's an important issue too. I have another question, which was also in your presentations. 1,100 disabled people were transported, and the tickets for the disabled people were specially reserved. This practice was even before the championship. It was very well developed, or you developed this practice, such opportunities for the championships only. Basically, this is a gradual movement in the direction that is accessibility for the low mobility people. It's a separate program which is working today in the Russian railroad system, and during the World Cup we only managed to kind of increase and to introduce more improvements into this activity. There are special compartments in the train coaches, and which are more comfortable, and they help low mobility citizens to feel comfortable. In each train we had a possibility of this kind for the low mobility citizens. Your question? Russian Railroad, my question to you, it's Russian Railroad TV. For many fans, the internet was very important, Wi-Fi and whatever, and everyone wanted to watch the matches, but not everywhere such opportunity was provided. It not only depended on the railroad company itself, but do you have any plans for the future? That is how you can solve this issue of the internet access. Yes, I can say that today the equipment of the rolling stock with the internet systems that can provide Wi-Fi communication, but the coverage of the entire territory is still problematic. There is Wi-Fi access to internet. We work with the major operators that specialize in this area. The problem is we have significant problems in this area. We're trying to overcome them one way or the other, and in the near future, I hope that it will manage to overcome them. It turns out to be a more difficult problem than we expected it. Not every operator wants to take it up, but our joint effort, we will overcome this problem and solve it. It's also quite expensive, is it? Well, that's the cost of the issue. Everybody says, yeah, we will solve it. But when they say how much the price tag for this problem, it appears to be the national problem. And I would say that we cannot resolve all these issues by our own resources. And for us, as Russian Railroad, without a conceptual decision, we cannot really achieve that result. Well, such losses, we did have such losses like thefts and whatever in the trains, but this linen that was issued free of charge for the travelers was when they took it along. It's a mentality of the people. They believe that if they receive it, it belongs to them. That we did not have any other considerations about that. But some souvenirs, if they found and they took with them, it happens in our daily life as well. But the thing is that we have a serious approach. We have to take everything into account. So basically, we tried to make a computation of all the overall losses. They amounted to about 10 million rubles. Bigger stolen things, it's not a serious loss for such a big company as ours. But as regards to punishment of the conductors, but we cannot put all the expenses on the conductors. And they also stole about 100 million, a million ruble worth of what do you call it, of glass holders, and they also, not too many glass holders, but sometimes they also misappropriated some linen and some blankets, which also had some logos. Some Russian Railroads logos, whatever. We're talking about the trains where the free travel was provided. It was very popular. It was very successful. We organized the price of, as I remember, from 700 to 2,000 rubles for various souvenirs that you could buy. There were all sorts of souvenirs and also products. And they were buying it very, very quickly. We have to replenish the stock of such souvenirs all the time on the trains. And what about the revenues? No, we did not actually. We did not work for the revenues, but we probably have to analyze. We didn't analyze the revenues yet for the souvenir sales. So we didn't have such an objective. So I understand that you have asked all the questions. I have the last question to ask. What is your brightest impression of this World Cup? Your personal? What I remember at the beginning of the World Cup, the first transportation operations, and great attention to the passenger haulage in the first case, and the first instances that were trying to seriously analyze and to take measures. So the brightest was Yelets station. The first conflict occurred between the English fans, British fans. They were on the train, and the first information that came to us was the conflict. It began. We said we were sort of really worried, but then it turned out that, so they came at Moscow station, but when they actually came to Moscow, they lost their ability to think logically. So the realization that the English are different from the Russians is minimal. Otherwise, didn't have much difference between the Brits and the Russians. So it's so we have to approach the people who come here with normal human rules and regulations, and there is nothing unusual about foreign travelers.
Честно скажу, нет, не удалось.
Все в поездах, все в поездах.
I was not even planning to. I know that our wheels are rolling every day, and so I didn't take a risk of buying a ticket to and then being sorry that I didn't go. My most positive impression, I had a good sleep for the first time this morning. That was the most positive. The very bright impressions we had, which had to do with the fans, not only the train stations, because Nigerians are very funny guys, and Norwegians that were singing Russian anthem, and the Moroccans that were dancing at the train station. Lots of other positive emotions. When the acuteness of the problem goes, then we understand that we have overcome a serious problem. We managed it, and there is a feeling of relaxation and assurance that the team that we have assembled is very effective, and the most positive emotion I have of the great teamwork that we have enjoyed, and the quality of the people that we have brought together, and the attitudes and the attitudes in our directorate, the organization during and prior to the World Cup. It was not only a great job, but it will be remembered not only by us, the organizers, but only by the people who we were working for, and this is the most pleasant impression that I have. Okay, thank you for the great job that you have accomplished, not only during the month, but for the preparation for the Confederations Cup and the time prior to the World Cup. And thank you once again. And I would like to say that when heads of various fan communities came to us from various countries, they also expressed their gratitude to you for the comfort and for the order and the security and friendliness that they experienced. Thank you very much for all that. Thank you.